They laughed at him. They pointed fingers, whispered, and even said it out loud as he walked by with 2 heavy bags of groceries in each hand. Some of them snickered, some shook their heads, and one man even muttered just loud enough for others to hear, "Look at that. Can't even afford delivery like the rest of us." What none of them knew, what none of them even imagined, was that the man they were mocking wasn't just another customer struggling with heavy bags. He was the man who owned the entire supermarket. Let me take you to the beginning of this story, because the ending will surprise you even more. This took place in a medium-sized town, the kind of place where people like to show off status. Expensive cars, polished watches, designer clothes, they mattered here. Appearances were everything, and if you didn't look the part, some folks treated you like you were invisible. Or worse, like you didn't belong. Now, the man at the center of this story was named Marcus. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and in his early 50s. His skin was dark, his hands were rough from years of hard work, and his clothes that day were simple. A faded gray hoodie, old jeans, and sneakers that had seen better days. Marcus wasn't flashy. He didn't feel the need to wear his wealth on his sleeves, because Marcus had already lived 2 lives. The first was the life of struggle. He grew up poor. He worked multiple jobs, carried groceries for other people, bagged them at corner stores, mopped floors, anything that paid. He knew what it felt like to go home hungry. He knew what it was like to be looked down on. The second life was the one he had built for himself through decades of grinding, saving, investing, and finally buying. Marcus had become the majority owner of one of the most successful supermarkets in the region. The same store, in fact, where he used to bag groceries as a teenager. But you'd never know it by looking at him. That day, Marcus decided to stop by his supermarket personally. He liked doing this sometimes, walking the aisles, talking to employees, seeing how things were running without announcing who he was. He felt it kept him grounded. He picked up some bread, some fruit, milk, and a few things for dinner. He paid at the register like any other customer. Then he carried the groceries out to his car himself, because Marcus never believed he was too important for simple things. And that's when it happened. A group of younger men, standing near the parking lot entrance, noticed him. They were dressed in expensive sneakers, flashy jewelry, and designer jackets. You know the type. Always loud, always trying to prove they were somebody. One of them laughed and nudged his friend. "Yo, look at this guy, carrying all that himself. Where's his car? Probably some old rust bucket." The others joined in. "Man, if you can't afford delivery, why even shop here?" one of them said. Another added, "Bet he's walking home with all that." Marcus heard every word. He kept walking, his arms heavy with the weight of the bags, but his stride never broke. His face stayed calm, even though inside, he felt the sting. Not because of the words themselves. He'd heard worse before. No, it was because he recognized the arrogance. He remembered being treated that way all his life, by people who thought money or appearance gave them the right to look down on others. He reached his car, not a flashy car, but a solid, well-kept SUV. Nothing that screamed wealth, but everything he needed. He put the groceries inside, closed the trunk, and before leaving, he turned back to the young men. "Gentlemen," he said in a calm, steady voice, "take care of yourselves." They laughed again. One even mocked his tone, repeating, "Take care of yourselves," in a mocking drawl. Marcus didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He got in his car and drove off. But here's the part that no one in that parking lot knew. The very next day, those same young men walked into the same supermarket. They were loud again, drawing attention to themselves, bragging about how much money they were about to spend. They walked straight to the deli counter, ordered expensive cuts of meat, and tried to impress the cashier with how much cash they pulled from their wallets. What they didn't expect was that Marcus was in the store again that morning, this time not as a customer, but as the owner. He had come in for a scheduled manager's meeting. He wore the same simple clothes. No suit, no tie, no CO look. Just Marcus, walking the aisles, checking inventory, making sure his employees had everything they needed. One of the managers walked up and said, "Morning, Mr. Johnson. The board approved the expansion for next quarter. Congratulations, sir." The group of young men froze when they heard it. "Mr. Johnson," one whispered. Another muttered, "Wait, that's the guy from yesterday." Marcus glanced their way, recognized them immediately, but said nothing at first. He walked past, greeted a few employees by name, asked a stock boy how school was going, and shook hands with a delivery driver. Everyone in the store respected him, not because of his title, but because he treated everyone like family. Finally, he stopped near the deli counter, just a few feet from the group of young men. He looked at them calmly. "You gentlemen enjoying the store today?" he asked. They shifted uncomfortably. "Oh yeah," one mumbled. Marcus nodded. "Good. We work hard to make sure our customers are happy. That's what ownership is about." The word hit them like a hammer. Ownership. One of them stammered. "Wait, you own this place?" Marcus looked them straight in the eye. "Yes, I do. And I carried those groceries yesterday because carrying something with your own two hands doesn't make you less. It makes you human. Remember that." The group went silent. Their bravado evaporated. For once, they had nothing to say. Marcus didn't gloat. He didn't humiliate them further. He just gave a small nod, turned, and continued on his way to the manager's office. But the lesson hung in the air like heavy smoke. Word spread quickly. Employees talked. Customers talked. The story of the owner who carried his own groceries became part of the supermarket's legend. And those young men, they never mocked Marcus again. In fact, a few weeks later, one of them even approached him quietly and asked if there were any job openings. Marcus smiled. "There's always room here for people willing to work hard," he said. And that's the truth. Marcus's story reminds us that appearances don't tell you who someone is. Wealth isn't about flashing money or designer labels. True wealth is in humility, in remembering where you came from, and in never thinking you're too good to carry your own groceries. So the next time you're tempted to judge someone by how they look or what they're carrying, stop and think. They might just own the building you're standing in. Thanks for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. And let me know in the comments, have you ever seen someone completely misjudge another person, only to find out they were way more important than anyone realized? I'd love to hear your experiences.